So this is my lock. It's a keypad, punch in the code, lets you in. It's supposed to be mounted in the door. And my shop has this ridiculously thin door. You see this circle here? I have a jig for drilling holes in doors. That's where the hole was supposed to be. So you can see that that wasn't going to work. Even if you centered that hole, it's actually as big as the door. And you would have ended up cutting the door in half. I'll show you that in a minute. Here's the other hole that's supposed to go in. I don't know if you can see it because the lighting here is weird. But you can see that it overlaps the glass. I would actually have to cut the glass in order to get the knob in there. And that was going to work. I could have done it way down there. But that's literally like 24 inches off the ground. I'm not bending over all the time, just open the door. So let me show you what I did. The first thought I had was to put the door, not the door, the lock, in the frame right there, because that's the side of the door that opens. But you can see the garage door rail is there. That wasn't going to work. So I put it over here. And that works. Pretty cool. But it's way more complicated than it should have been. First of all, this right there is the back of the trim outside the door. And this is the shingles, the wooden shingles. And they're both attached to this 2x4. So I took this 2x4 out. I'd have a giant hole here. That wasn't going to work. I thought about recessing it into the 2x4, but I'm not sure if that actually holds any weight or not. So I decided I wouldn't do that. So I got a piece of pine and a piece of 3/8, and I made it exactly an inch thick. Not 3/8. Is that 3/8? It is 3/8. So I made it an inch and an eighth thick. Put a big notch in it so that I could put the deadbolt in. And then drilled the rest of it out like it was a door. And then mounted the combination pad on the outside. But I couldn't quite do it normally. I couldn't drill that great big, 2 1/8 inch hole or something through there, 2 3/8. Because the screws that went from the lock through the door into the metal plate that's behind this were too short. And the tailpiece, which is a little flat bar thing that stuck out of the back of the lock and went through this, and the lock turned in order to operate this, also attached to this, that was also way too short. So that wasn't going to work. But I made it work. And the way I made it work, first of all, the screws that were supposed to go through the metal plate into the lock don't. They go through this piece of wood into the lock. I countersunk them deep enough that works fine. It just... The second problem, the tailpiece, that was more complicated. I had to make my own. This right here, piece of, I think it's 3/16 inch copper pipe. You can see I flattened the end. I took that tailpiece off the lock, cut it in half, and then flattened the end so that it fit in there perfectly. I think you can see that. It's exactly the right size. And using this, I was able to make an extension. Of course, measuring everything is a giant pain. And the first 3 times I did it, it was too long, and then the 4th time it was too short. So instead of taking the other half of the tailpiece and putting it in the other end, I took it's an 832 screw, took a hammer and flattened half of it. And then I took this pipe and I threaded 1032. I have a 1032 tap right here. Threaded at 1032. And then took my screw, with half of which was flat, but the edges of the flat parts still had the thread on them, and they were 32, so they threaded right in. And then when I got it in far enough, I just flattened the end of the pipe so that it looked like this, and everything was locked in place. So there's my tailpiece extension. I put the tailpiece extension in, and the flattened threaded part, the end of it that didn't go into the pipe, went through the deadbolt, and then into the, I think they call it a thumb lock. And that worked great. It does. It works fine. So then I had to build the rest of it. Let's start over here. It's a 3/16 rod going through the 3/16 copper, which serves as a slide. I put that here so that if this comes this rod comes back an extra 1/4 inch or whatever, it doesn't like fall out of there on the floor and then you lose it and it's a pain. In order to get this attached to the bracket, I countersunk the hole in the bracket from the other side so that it was tapered. Put this little piece of pipe in there, and then I put a conic, I think it's a cold chisel, nail set, I don't know what the hell it is. Big conic steel thing in the hole and pounded on it until it spread the end of the hole out. And it's trapped in that hole now. That worked good. And a washer, a little spring, there's another washer, and a little piece of that pipe acting as a shaft collar. I don't know how good the lighting here is. With a nail through it to keep it from going anywhere. And that works nicely. The other end is quite similar, except there's no spring. The reason that the rod is split here into 2 separate rods is so that when you open the door, you actually can open the door. If it was one solid rod going all the way through, then opening the door would bend it here and everything would be messed up. And this piece of cardboard here is not a bug, it's a feature. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. The idea is that if this jams, the cardboard will fold and allow the deadbolt to extend anyway, so that it doesn't strip the gears. That's my story. It has nothing to do with the fact that when I mounted this, it came out at 1/2 inch too high and doesn't actually hit the end of the damn rod yet. So, a piece of cardboard in there fixed that just perfectly. It's glued to the end of the deadbolt there. So when you operate the deadbolt, you can see it just pushes that rod, which pushes this rod. I'll show you that again, actually. Okay. And that pushes that rod into that hole, which I will reinforce with steel or something when I get some. I don't have any right now. So, that's my Whiz Band Fancy lock on my shop door, which is way too small to accept the Whiz Band Fancy lock. Yeah, that's all there is to it.